Welcome, dear listeners, to our enchanting corner of the digital realm. Little Women is a novel written by Louisa May Alcott and published in two parts in 1868 and 1869. It follows the lives of the four March sisters, Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy, growing up in the 19th century in Concord, Massachusetts, during and after the American Civil War. The first chapter, Playing Pilgrims. The story begins on Christmas Eve in the year 1861. The March family, consisting of four sisters, Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy, and their mother, Marmee, is introduced. Their father is away serving as a chaplain in the Civil War. The chapter opens with the four girls discussing how they will celebrate Christmas in a simpler and more meaningful way. They decide to forego buying expensive presents for each other and instead use the money to buy gifts for their mother, Marmee. The girls share their plans with their mother, who supports and encourages their decision. They come up with the idea of playing pilgrims by giving up their Christmas dinner and inviting their poor neighbor, Mrs. Hummel, and her children to join them. On Christmas morning, the girls wake up to discover gifts from their mother, new books for Jo, a delicate handkerchief for Meg, a pretty pair of gloves for Amy, and a pianoforte songbook for Beth. They are touched by their mother's thoughtfulness and appreciate her understanding of their desire for simpler gifts. After breakfast, the girls begin preparing the meal for the Hummels. They cook a simple but hearty feast, including bread, soup, and a plum pudding. They also gather some of their own clothes to give to Mrs. Hummel's children as presents. When Mrs. Hummel and her children arrive, the girls warmly welcome them and invite them to share the meal. Despite the Hummels' initial shyness and embarrassment, the March sisters manage to create a friendly and festive atmosphere. They sing carols together and exchange stories, making everyone feel comfortable and cared for. At the end of the chapter, the girls reflect on their decision to play pilgrims and how it has brought them joy and a sense of fulfillment. They realize that giving and sharing with others has made their Christmas more meaningful than any material gifts could have. Playing Pilgrims sets the tone for the novel by emphasizing the importance of family, love, and generosity. It showcases the March sisters' strong bond, their desire to make a positive impact on the world around them, and their willingness to put others' needs before their own. The second chapter, A Merry Christmas. The story continues to follow the March sisters, Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy, as they celebrate Christmas. Their father is still away serving as a chaplain in the Civil War, but the family finds ways to create a joyful and memorable holiday season. The chapter opens with the sisters waking up on Christmas morning. They excitedly gather around their mother, Marmee, who gives each of them a small gift. Jo receives a beautiful book, Meg receives $1, Amy receives a sketchbook, and Beth receives a pair of slippers. The sisters eagerly share their gifts and express their gratitude. They are content with the simplicity of their presents, understanding that their mother's love and thoughtfulness are the most valuable gifts of all. The girls then receive another surprise. Their wealthy neighbor, Mr. Lawrence, sends over a luxurious breakfast as a Christmas present. The March family is delighted and grateful for Mr. Lawrence's generosity. After breakfast, the sisters decide to take a walk to the Lawrence estate, known as the Lawrence Boy. They want to thank Mr. Lawrence in person for the delicious meal. Jo, being the most spirited and adventurous sister, volunteers to be the spokesperson. When they arrive at the Lawrence house, Jo boldly goes up to the front door and knocks. She is greeted by Mr. Lawrence's grandson, Theodore, known as Laurie. Jo introduces herself and expresses the family's gratitude for the breakfast. Laurie is immediately charmed by Jo's lively personality and invites her inside to meet his grandfather. The rest of the sisters follow, and they are warmly welcomed into the grand and elegant home. Mr. Lawrence, an elderly man, is initially stern and reserved. However, he is captivated by the March sisters' genuine manners and kind hearts. He appreciates their thoughtfulness towards his grandson and decides to offer them a special gift. Mr. Lawrence surprises the girls by presenting them with a beautiful piano, which he believes will be a source of joy and inspiration for their family. The March sisters are overwhelmed with gratitude and excitement. The chapter concludes with the girls returning home, eager to share the news of their unexpected gift. They are filled with joy and anticipation, knowing that the piano will bring them closer together and provide a means for artistic expression. A Merry Christmas highlights the importance of gratitude, generosity, and unexpected acts of kindness. It demonstrates the deepening friendship between the March sisters and Laurie, as well as the positive impact they have on those around them. The gift of the piano symbolizes the power of music and creativity in their lives and sets the stage for future adventures and personal growth. The third chapter, The Lawrence Boy. The story continues to follow the March sisters, Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy, as they become acquainted with their wealthy neighbor, Mr. Lawrence, and his grandson, Theodore, known as Laurie. The chapter begins with the March sisters eagerly exploring their new piano, a gift from Mr. Lawrence. They are thrilled by the beautiful instrument and the opportunities it presents for their musical pursuits. Meanwhile, Laurie, who lives with his grandfather, Mr. Lawrence, finds himself drawn to the March sisters. He is captivated by their lively spirits, independence, and kindness. Laurie often watches them from his window and wishes he could join their adventures. One day, while the March sisters are playing on their front lawn, Laurie summons the courage to approach them. He introduces himself and expresses his desire to befriend them. The sisters, particularly Jo, welcome Laurie with open arms, intrigued by his lively and friendly nature. As they spend time together, Laurie becomes a frequent visitor to the March household. He becomes fast friends with all four sisters, but his bond with Jo grows particularly strong. They share a love for adventure, books, and imaginative play. Laurie introduces the girls to his grandfather, Mr. Lawrence, who is initially distant but gradually warms up to them. The March sisters' genuine kindness and sincere appreciation for Mr. Lawrence's generosity soften his heart, and he starts to enjoy their company. As time passes, Laurie's friendship with the March sisters deepens. They share many memorable experiences together, including putting on amateur theatricals, exploring nature, and engaging in spirited conversations. The chapter also highlights Laurie's growing admiration for Jo. He becomes infatuated with her independent spirit, strong-willed nature, and artistic talent. Laurie admires Jo's writing and encourages her to pursue her literary ambitions. However, Jo remains oblivious to Laurie's romantic feelings, treating him as a dear friend and confidant. She sees him as a beloved brother and appreciates his companionship and support. The Lawrence Boy emphasizes the blossoming friendship between Laurie and the March sisters. It showcases the shared adventures, camaraderie, and mutual admiration that develop between them. The chapter also hints at the possibility of romantic feelings, particularly from Laurie's side, setting the stage for future emotional developments in the story. The fourth chapter, Burdens. The March sisters, Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy, continue to navigate their lives and face various challenges. The chapter begins with Meg and Jo discussing their desire for new dresses to wear to an upcoming social event, the Moffat Ball. Meg, the eldest sister, dreams of attending the ball and being seen as a grown-up lady. Jo, on the other hand, doesn't share the same enthusiasm for society and prefers her comfortable and practical attire. Their mother, Marmee, notices their conversation and gently reminds them of their family's financial situation. She explains that they cannot afford extravagant new dresses, and they must be content with what they have. Marmee's words highlight the importance of financial responsibility and gratitude for what they already possess. Later, the girls receive an invitation to spend the day with their wealthy friend, Annie Moffat. Excited about the opportunity to experience a different lifestyle, the March sisters eagerly accept the invitation. At the Moffat household, Meg and Jo encounter an environment filled with luxury and excess. They are both fascinated and uncomfortable with the lavish lifestyle on display. Meg tries to fit in by imitating the behaviors and mannerisms of her wealthier peers, while Jo remains true to herself and feels out of place. During their visit, Jo befriends Laurie, their neighbor's grandson, who happens to be at the Moffat house as well. They bond over their shared disdain for social pretenses and find solace in their genuine friendship. Meanwhile, Meg becomes self-conscious about her humble attire compared to the extravagant dresses of the other girls. She feels a sense of embarrassment and yearns for acceptance within the high society circle. As the day progresses, Meg and Jo witness the superficiality and materialism that permeate the Moffat household. They begin to realize that true happiness and fulfillment cannot be found solely in wealth and social status. Upon returning home, Meg confides in her mother, expressing her disappointment with her own desire for material things. Marmee reassures Meg, reminding her of the importance of inner values, integrity, and contentment. Burdens explores themes of materialism, social pressures, and the value of inner qualities. It showcases Meg's desire for acceptance and the subsequent realization that genuine happiness does not rely on external appearances. The chapter serves as a reminder of the March sisters' moral grounding and the importance of staying true to oneself, even in the face of societal expectations. The fifth chapter, Being Neighborly. The March sisters, Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy, continue to navigate their lives and explore the concept of being good neighbors. The chapter opens with the sisters discussing their desire to befriend their wealthy neighbors, the Gardeners. They believe that reaching out and forming a connection with the Gardeners would not only bring them joy but also provide an opportunity for their own personal growth. Driven by their goal, the sisters decide to organize a surprise breakfast for the Gardeners, using the abundance of delicious food left over from their mother's recent party. They aim to show their goodwill and create a warm and welcoming atmosphere. On the day of the surprise breakfast, the sisters wake up early to prepare a lavish spread. They transform their living room into a cozy dining area, complete with flowers and decorations. The sisters take pride in their efforts and eagerly await the Gardeners' arrival. When the Gardeners arrive, they are pleasantly surprised and touched by the March sisters' thoughtful gesture. The breakfast becomes an occasion for genuine conversation and connection, allowing the sisters and the Gardeners to get to know each other better. During the breakfast, the sisters learn about the Gardeners' family dynamics and interests. They discover that the Gardeners have their own share of struggles and sorrows, despite their wealth and privilege. This realization deepens the sisters' empathy and understanding, and they appreciate the Gardeners' warmth and openness. As the chapter progresses, it becomes clear that the sisters' act of neighborliness not only benefits the Gardeners but also enriches their own lives. Through their interactions with the Gardeners, the March sisters gain new perspectives, broaden their horizons, and find comfort in building connections outside of their immediate family circle. Being neighborly highlights the importance of reaching out to others, extending kindness, and fostering meaningful relationships within the community. The chapter emphasizes the value of empathy, understanding, and shared experiences. Through their act of neighborliness, the March sisters demonstrate the positive impact that small gestures of goodwill can have on individuals and the overall community. The sixth chapter, Beth finds the palace beautiful. The focus shifts to Beth, the shy and gentle March sister, as she embarks on a personal journey of self-discovery and blossoms through her musical talents. The chapter begins with Beth accompanying her mother, Marmee, on a visit to a nearby mansion belonging to Mr. Lawrence, their wealthy neighbor. Marmee is there to tend to Mr. Lawrence's ailing grandson, Laurie, who has fallen ill. During her visit, Beth encounters Mr. Lawrence's grand piano in the music room. Despite her shyness, she feels drawn to the instrument and decides to play a few notes. To her surprise, the beautiful music she creates resonates throughout the house. Mr. Lawrence, who has been listening from another room, is deeply moved by Beth's playing. He realizes her talent and the joy that music brings her. Mr. Lawrence offers Beth the opportunity to come and play the piano whenever she likes, which greatly touches her. As Beth continues her visits to the Lawrence house to play the piano, she discovers solace and comfort in the music. The piano becomes her sanctuary, where she can express her emotions and find an outlet for her gentle spirit. Beth's playing soon captures the attention of the Lawrence household. Laurie, who is recovering from his illness, is particularly captivated by her talent. He becomes a devoted listener and supporter, recognizing the beauty and depth of Beth's music. Word of Beth's musical abilities spreads beyond the Lawrence household. Soon, the neighbors and friends start requesting her presence to play the piano at their homes, bringing joy and solace to others through her music. Although Beth is initially hesitant and self-conscious about performing in public, her desire to bring happiness to others outweighs her fears. With encouragement from her family and Laurie, she starts accepting invitations and sharing her musical talents with a wider audience. Beth finds the palace beautiful, highlights Beth's growth as she discovers her passion for music and gains confidence in her abilities. Through her talent, she touches the hearts of those around her and finds her own sense of fulfillment and purpose. The chapter also showcases the supportive and nurturing environment of the March family, where each sister is encouraged to pursue her individual interests and talents. Beth's musical journey serves as a reminder of the power of art to bring joy, healing, and connection to both the performer and the audience. The 7th chapter, Amy's Valley of Humiliation. The focus shifts to the youngest March sister, Amy, as she navigates her own challenges and experiences personal growth. The chapter opens with Amy joining her mother, Marmee, on a visit to Aunt March's house. Aunt March is a wealthy and rather strict relative who serves as a mentor to the March sisters. Amy hopes to receive a reward for her recent artistic achievements, as Aunt March has promised to buy her a new sketchbook. However, upon arriving at Aunt March's house, Amy encounters her cousin Flo, who has taken ill with a sore throat. Aunt March, concerned for Flo's health, cancels her plans to take Amy shopping for the sketchbook. Disappointed and feeling left out, Amy struggles with her emotions and contemplates her own sense of importance. She becomes overwhelmed by feelings of humiliation, especially when she overhears Aunt March praising her sister, Jo, for her independent spirit and talent. Feeling neglected and undervalued, Amy decides to assert her own worth. She takes a stand by displaying her drawing skills to Aunt March, hoping to prove her artistic abilities and gain recognition. However, her attempts fail to impress Aunt March, who remains focused on Flo's health. Amy's disappointment turns into anger, leading her to commit a thoughtless act of revenge. She retaliates by burning Jo's manuscript, an act that deeply hurts her sister. Recognizing the severity of her actions, Amy immediately regrets her impulsive behavior and feels remorseful. Realizing the need to take responsibility for her actions, she confesses to her mother and seeks guidance on how to make amends. Marmee responds with love and wisdom, teaching Amy the importance of forgiveness and personal growth. She encourages Amy to apologize to Jo, learn from her mistakes, and make amends by doing something kind for her sister. Amy takes her mother's advice to heart and seeks forgiveness from Joe. Despite initial tension and hurt feelings, the sisters reconcile and pledge to support and love each other unconditionally. As the chapter concludes, Amy embarks on her path of personal growth. She acknowledges her faults and strives to become a better person, learning important lessons about the consequences of her actions and the value of humility and forgiveness. Amy's Valley of Humiliation highlights the theme of personal growth and the consequences of impulsive behavior. It explores Amy's struggle with her own sense of self-worth and her journey toward understanding the importance of kindness, forgiveness, and learning from her mistakes. The chapter serves as a pivotal moment for Amy's character development and sets the stage for her continued growth throughout the story. The 8th chapter, Joe Meets Apollyon. The focus shifts to the spirited and independent March sister, Jo, as she confronts her own flaws and learns important lessons about anger and self-control. The chapter begins with Jo struggling with her fiery temper, which often leads her into conflicts and regrets. Her quick temper gets her into trouble, causing her to have frequent clashes with her family and friends. One day, while trying to control her anger, Jo goes for a walk to clear her head and find some solace. During her walk, she encounters Laurie, their neighbor and a close friend. Laurie invites Jo to join him for a leisurely stroll. As they walk and talk, Laurie brings up Jo's temper and tries to help her understand the negative consequences of her outbursts. Jo resists his advice, insisting that she cannot change who she is. However, Laurie continues to encourage her to strive for self-improvement and better control of her emotions. Jo's resistance and stubbornness reach a boiling point, and she becomes overwhelmed with anger. In her fury, she snaps at Laurie, hurting his feelings and causing a strain in their friendship. Feeling remorseful and realizing the extent of the damage she has caused, Jo experiences a moment of self-reflection. She sees the destructive nature of her anger and understands the need to change her ways. Jo seeks solace in her writing, pouring her emotions onto the pages of her journal. Through her writing, she confronts her inner demons and battles the metaphorical Apollyon, a reference to the demon in John Bunyan's The Pilgrim's Progress. As Jo faces her personal Apollyon, she vows to conquer her anger and develop self-control. She recognizes that her temper not only harms those around her but also hinders her own personal growth and happiness. The chapter concludes with Jo's realization that she must actively work on her anger issues. She acknowledges that it will be a difficult journey but commits herself to change for the better. Jo Meets Apollyon explores the theme of self-improvement and the struggle to overcome personal flaws. It delves into Jo's battle with her anger and highlights the importance of self-awareness, self-reflection, and the willingness to change. The chapter serves as a turning point for Jo, marking the beginning of her journey towards emotional maturity and personal transformation. The 9th chapter, Meg Goes to Vanity Fair. The focus is on Meg, the oldest March sister, as she experiences a glimpse of high society and grapples with the allure of materialism and societal expectations. The chapter begins with Meg's invitation to attend a fashionable party called the Moffat's Vanity Fair. Meg is excited about the opportunity to experience the world of wealth, glamour, and social status. She views it as a chance to fulfill her desire to be a part of high society. On the day of the party, Meg dresses in her best attire and goes to the Moffat's house with her friends Sally and Annie. As they arrive, Meg is immediately drawn to the grandeur and opulence of the event. She finds herself surrounded by rich and influential people, wearing exquisite clothes and indulging in lavish displays of wealth. Meg becomes engrossed in the materialistic aspects of the party, longing for the luxuries she sees around her. She feels self-conscious about her own modest upbringing and begins to feel inferior in comparison to her affluent peers. During the party, Meg's focus shifts to external appearances and social status. She becomes concerned about her own attractiveness and popularity, craving the attention and admiration of others. Meg starts to prioritize external validation over her true values and loses sight of her own sense of self. However, as the evening progresses, Meg's idealized view of high society begins to crumble. She witnesses instances of insincerity, snobbery, and superficiality among the guests. Meg realizes that the pursuit of material wealth and social status does not necessarily equate to happiness and fulfillment. Feeling disenchanted, Meg longs for the comfort and simplicity of her own family. She yearns for the genuine connections and love she shares with her sisters and realizes that those relationships are far more valuable than the fleeting glamour of Vanity Fair. As the chapter concludes, Meg returns home, filled with a renewed appreciation for her family and a clearer understanding of her own values. She learns the important lesson that true happiness lies in meaningful relationships, personal integrity, and staying true to oneself. Meg Goes to Vanity Fair explores the theme of societal pressures, materialism, and the search for identity. It showcases Meg's journey of self-discovery and her realization that happiness and fulfillment cannot be found solely in external appearances and societal approval. The chapter emphasizes the importance of staying true to one's values and finding contentment in genuine connections with loved ones. The 10th chapter, The PC and PO. The focus is on the March sisters, Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy, as they engage in a series of amusing and mischievous activities while their mother, Marmee, is away. The chapter begins with Marmee leaving home to tend to their sick Aunt March. With their mother's absence, the sisters feel a sense of freedom and decide to indulge in some light-hearted fun. The girls invent a secret society called the Pickwick Club, PC, and the Post Office, PO. Meg is chosen as the president, and Jo takes on the role of postmistress. The games they play involve writing and delivering secret messages to each other, adding an element of mystery and adventure to their day. As part of the game, the sisters exchange notes that contain playful and often humorous content. They entertain themselves by writing witty messages and delivering them to one another. The game brings laughter and entertainment to the household during their mother's absence. Meanwhile, the sisters also encounter some challenges and learn valuable lessons. For instance, Amy, the youngest sister, faces consequences for her impulsive actions and learns the importance of thinking before acting. This teaches her the value of self-control and considering the potential outcomes of her choices. Throughout the chapter, the sisters bond and enjoy each other's company, finding solace and comfort in their shared experiences. They demonstrate their strong sisterly affection and support for one another, even in playful activities. As the chapter concludes, Marmee returns home and is pleased to find her daughters happy and united. She acknowledges the importance of their sisterly bond and the joy they bring to each other's lives. The PC and PO showcases the light-hearted and mischievous side of the March sisters. It emphasizes their ability to find joy and create fun even in challenging times. The chapter highlights the importance of sisterhood, creativity, and playfulness in maintaining strong familial relationships and fostering a sense of unity and happiness within the family. I'm thrilled to have you join me here on our journey through the world of literature and the timeless works that have captivated audiences for centuries.